I'll never forget the sound of the front door slamming that day, a sound that echoed through the hollow house that was no longer mine. My son, Michael, stood there, holding papers that said, "Sold." My home, the one I'd built with my late husband, where every wall still whispered our memories, was gone, and I hadn't even known it was on the market. I remember staring at him, the blood rushing to my ears, my hands trembling so badly I had to grip the counter to stay upright. "Mom?" he said, not even able to look at me. "It's done." It was the only way. "The only way for what?" I whispered. "To save us," he said. That word, us, burned like acid, because whatever us he was talking about, it didn't include me anymore. But what he didn't know was that there was one legal detail he had missed, and that single oversight would turn his betrayal into something he'd never forget. Before everything fell apart, life was simple. Lonely, yes, but calm. I'm Linda Carter, 63, retired elementary school teacher. I'd lived in that old craftsman home in Northern California for over 30 years. My husband, Tom, passed away 5 years ago, a heart attack in the middle of mowing the lawn. After that, the house felt too big, too quiet. My son Michael moved back in for a while after his divorce. That while turned into 2 years. He said he'd help with bills and maintenance, but in truth, it was me helping him. He'd been a dreamer since he was little, always chasing something shiny. 1 month it was a startup. Next, real estate investments. Then, crypto. He'd always been so close to making it big, but close doesn't pay the mortgage. Still, I loved him. I wanted to believe in him. That week he'd been quieter than usual, on edge. I figured it was money again. Maybe the market had dropped, or maybe his latest venture didn't work out. I didn't pry, not after all the arguments we'd had about me not trusting him. But trust is fragile, and sometimes it breaks long before you realize it has. Before the sale, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice, professional and polite. "Mrs. Carter, this is Diane from Redwood Title Services. I just wanted to confirm the date for the property closing." "Property closing?" I repeated. "You must have the wrong number." She hesitated. "This is for 214 Rosewood Lane, correct?" My heart skipped. That was my address. "Who authorized this?" "Your son, Michael Carter. He said you'd sign the documents jointly. Is that not correct?" My mouth went dry. I told her to cancel everything immediately, that I hadn't signed a thing. She apologized, said she'd double-check the file, and hung up. When Michael came home that evening, I confronted him. He denied it instantly, said it was a mix-up, that maybe they'd called the wrong Carter family. But his eyes, those eyes that used to light up when he was telling the truth, wouldn't meet mine. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went through the mail pile by the door and found an envelope addressed to Michael Carter and Linda Carter. Inside were legal papers, a property transfer agreement, my name forged, perfectly, down to the curl of the L. I remember whispering to myself, he wouldn't, but he would, and he did. The next morning, I waited until he came downstairs. I laid the papers in front of him like evidence in a courtroom. "Care to explain this?" He froze. Then slowly, he sat down. "Mom, I can explain." "Oh, I bet you can. It was supposed to help us. The market's high. I found a buyer who'd pay enough to clear your debts and give us both a fresh start. You wouldn't have agreed." "You're damn right I wouldn't have agreed," I snapped. He stood, voice rising. "You're drowning in bills, Mom. Property tax, repairs, insurance. How long did you think you could hold on to this place? That's not your decision to make." We stood there, the silence between us louder than the shouting had been. I saw something in his face I'd never seen before. Desperation. The kind that makes good people do bad things. And then he said something that chilled me. I already signed the final papers. The closing's in 2 days. I felt my knees give way. He reached out like he wanted to help me, but I pushed him back. "Get out," I said. "You've taken everything else. Don't take my dignity too." He left, and I cried until the morning light broke through the curtains. But grief turned to something sharper. Because if my son wanted to play legal games, he'd picked the wrong mother. Tom, my late husband, had always been the meticulous one. He handled the finances, the paperwork, the insurance. After his death, I went through every file he'd left in that old metal cabinet by the study. Among them was a trust deed we'd set up years ago, something I'd almost forgotten. It stated that the title of the house was held under a revocable living trust, listing me as the surviving trustee, which meant Michael had no legal right to sell it. Even if my name appeared on the property documents, the true ownership remained under that trust, and the trust required my signature as trustee, not as individual owner. The forged signature on the regular deed was worthless, but I didn't tell him that, not yet. Instead, I played along. When the title agent called again, I said, "I'll attend the closing in person." She seemed relieved. "Great, Mrs. Carter. The buyer's looking forward to meeting you." So was I. 2 days later, I walked into that title office like a soldier walking into battle. Michael was already there, wearing his nicest shirt, the same nervous smile he used to have before big presentations in high school. He looked human again. I almost softened. Almost. Across the table sat a middle-aged couple, the buyers. They smiled warmly. "We love your home, Mrs. Carter. We can't wait to make it ours." I smiled back. "I'm afraid that might be difficult." Everyone froze. Michael's jaw tightened. "Mom, please, just listen." I cut him off. "Before anyone signs anything, I think you should all know something." I reached into my purse and pulled out a copy of the trust deed. This property is held under a revocable trust, listing me as the sole trustee, which means no one here can legally sell this property except me, and I haven't agreed to any sale. The silence was thick enough to choke on. The title officer's face turned pale. That changes things. Michael's voice cracked. "Mom, please, just listen." I stood up. "No, Michael, you're the one who needs to listen. You tried to take from me what your father and I built with our own hands. You forged my name. You sold my memories, and you called it love." He buried his face in his hands, whispering, "I didn't mean to hurt you." But intentions don't erase betrayal. As I walked out, the buyer's smiles had vanished, and my son sat there, defeated, broken. But the story didn't end there, because when I got home, I found something that changed everything again. On the kitchen counter sat a letter, half crumpled, from the state attorney's office. Inside, a notice: Michael Carter, pending criminal investigation for fraud and tax evasion. My heart sunk. So that's why he'd done it. The sale wasn't for us. It was to cover himself. The fresh start he'd promised was nothing but desperation wrapped in deceit. For a moment, I wanted to destroy it, burn it, hide it. He was still my son, after all. But then I remembered every sleepless night I'd spent worrying about his next lie. So I called the number at the bottom of the letter. When the investigator answered, I said the words I never thought I'd say. "I have information about Michael Carter." That night, I didn't sleep. Not because of guilt, but because of the ache that comes when love dies and justice takes its place. 2 weeks later, the police came. It wasn't dramatic, no sirens, no shouting, just a quiet knock and 2 officers leading my son out of the house in handcuffs. He didn't fight. He didn't even look back. Just before the door closed, he said softly, "I thought you'd save me, Mom." I wanted to tell him I already had, long ago, when I still believed he could be saved. But words didn't come, only tears. Months passed. The house was quiet again. Painfully, peacefully quiet. I tended the garden, fixed the porch railing, even repainted the living room. Then one afternoon, I got a letter from Michael, mailed from county jail. "Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I wanted to tell you something before you hear it elsewhere. The sale wasn't just for me. I owed money to people who threatened to hurt you. I thought if I sold the house, I could protect you. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd never agree. I'm sorry I failed you again." I sat there for a long time, the paper shaking in my hands. He wasn't lying this time. I could feel it. That night, I went through his old room, found receipts, messages, debts. It was true. He'd been trapped, manipulated, drowning.
He'd sold my house not out of greed, but out of fear. And that was the cruelest twist of all. Because in saving myself, I destroyed him. Now, every evening, I sit on the porch watching the sunset over the garden Tom planted. I think about the cost of secrets and how love, real love, can twist into something unrecognizable when fear and pride take hold. I don't regret protecting what was mine, but I regret not seeing the pain in my son's eyes soon enough to stop him before he lost everything. Sometimes betrayal isn't born from hatred, but from desperation. And sometimes justice doesn't feel like victory. It feels like loss. Still, I keep the house, not because it's bricks and wood, but because it's proof that truth, no matter how painful, will always find its way home. And that one forgotten legal detail, it didn't just save my house. It saved me from losing myself.